Just hearing the truth about 1863 is enough to break a soul. Not because of Gettysburg, not because of the Emancipation Proclamation, but because that same year, while the Union claimed to fight for freedom, it built concentration camps for the very people it claimed to liberate, and not one textbook teaches it, not one memorial honors it, not one holiday remembers it, because what happened in 1863 wasn't just betrayal. It was state-sanctioned annihilation of freed black people under the flag of the Union. So, ask yourself, why did over 20,000 freed black men, women, and children die in a single year? Not at the hands of Confederates, but in Union-run camps? Why are these places not called death camps when they functioned exactly like them? And why, when skeletal remains still surface after Mississippi River floods, do we call it history instead of crime? This isn't a conspiracy. It's a cover-up, and we're dragging it into the light. Asterisk, they told you 1863 was the year of freedom. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Black soldiers joined the Union Army. Slavery was on its way out. But what they didn't tell? You. Freedom had a trapdoor, because the moment enslaved people escaped to Union lines, they weren't greeted with liberty. They were imprisoned, forced into refugee camps with high walls. No food, no medicine, no graves. Historian Abigail Cooper, assistant professor of history, calls them spaces of controlled freedom, where black bodies were contained, not liberated. Asterisk. And she's right. These weren't refugee camps. They were laboratories of neglect, designed to extract labor then. Discard lives. So ask yourself, if the Union was fighting to end slavery, why were freed black people locked up like criminals? Why were they denied the right to bury their dead? And why did the government refuse to document their deaths? Because this wasn't about saving them, it was about managing them. Let's go to Natchez, Mississippi, 1863. At the bottom of a deep, bowl-shaped ravine surrounded by high bluffs, the Union Army built a camp they called the Devil's Punch Bowl. Don Estes, former director of the Natchez City Cemetery, confirmed they walled it off. No one could escape. It was a prison for freed slaves. Asterisk, men were forced into backbreaking labor. Women and children were left inside with no food, no clean water, no shelter. Disease spread like fire. Smallpox, dysentery, typhoid, and when people died, the Union troops didn't remove the bodies. They threw shovels down, said bury them where they fall. Asterisk, but the prisoners were too weak, too starved, too broken, so the dead rotted where they dropped, their decomposing bodies fertilizing the soil, feeding the peach trees that still grow there today. And here's the horror. The locals won't eat those peaches, not because they're bad, but because they know they're eating fruit grown from human remains. James E. Yeatman, founder of the Western Sanitary Commission, was visited in November 1863. He wrote a direct appeal to President Lincoln, begging him to act. Lincoln did nothing in one day. 75 people died in 1 year, over 20,000, and not a single official record was kept. Asterisk. So ask yourself, is this freedom? Is this another form of slavery with Union uniforms? Asterisk. Let's be clear. These weren't former slaves. They were freedmen, legally emancipated, and many had fought for the Union. Over 186,000 black soldiers served in the Union Army, the 54th Massachusetts. Infantry stormed Fort Wagner, nearly half died in the charge. And what did they get in return? Not equality, not land, not justice. After the war, they were abandoned. Freed black families who fled to Union lines were herded into camps, not celebrated as heroes, and when they begged to return to plantations just to survive, the Union said no, they'd rather let them die in captivity and admit they had no plan for freedom. Frederick Douglass saw it coming. He warned Lincoln once. The black man gets a musket on his shoulder and bullets in his pocket. No power on earth can deny he's earned citizenship. Asterisk. But Lincoln wasn't fighting for citizenship. He was fighting to preserve the Union. And once the war was won, black people became an afterthought. So ask yourself, was the Civil War really about ending slavery? Or was it about winning a war and controlling the aftermath? Because if it was about freedom, why did the Union build more prisons for freed people than schools? Why did they starve 20,000 in one camp alone? And why did they erase it from history? The Devil's Punch Bowl wasn't unique. It was one of over 200 such camps across the South. Historian Abigail Cooper has documented more than 800,000
African Americans passed through these camps during the Civil War.
camps, a dehumanizing term for people who had escaped slavery. Conditions: universal squalor, no sanitation, no medical care, constant fear of Confederate raids and Union neglect. At one camp in New Bern, North Carolina, records show. 1,800 white refugees received 762 barrels of flour in 3 months. 7,500 black refugees received 19 barrels. That's 1 barrel for every 393 people. And when black refugees protested, they were labeled ungrateful, lazy, unfit for freedom. But the truth, they were dying in silence, and the government, it didn't just ignore them. It documented their suffering, then buried the files. So ask yourself, is this racism? Is it genocide by neglect? Because when you lock up a people, starve them, refuse to record their deaths, you're not just oppressing them, you're erasing them. Let's talk about erasure. Why don't you know about the Devil's Punch Bowl? Why isn't it in your history book? Why is there no national memorial? Because the U.S. government has a long tradition of making black suffering invisible. Journalist Ida B. Wells said it best: the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. Asterisk, but in 1863, they did the opposite. They turned off the light. No official death toll, no burial records, no investigation. Even today, when floods unearth skeletal remains from the Punch Bowl, they're not called victims. They're not identified. They're not mourned. They're reburied in silence. And the textbooks, they say, the Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves. Asterisk. End of story. No mention of the death camps. No mention of the 20,000 who died. After freedom, no mention of the betrayal. So ask yourself, is this ignorance? Or is it intentional? Because if you erase the consequences of freedom, you make slavery seem like the better option. And that's exactly what happened. Freed black people were told, you're free. But given nothing to survive, so many said. We were better off as slaves. Asterisk, not because slavery was good, but because freedom was a lie. Go to Natchez today. Walk the bluffs of the Devil's Punch Bowl. You'll see peach trees, heavy with fruit, juicy, golden, but no one eats them. Not the locals, not the tourists, not even the birds, some say, because everyone knows. These trees grow from mass graves, their roots fed by the flesh and blood of 20,000 innocent people. And that's not metaphor, that's science. Decomposed bodies release nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the exact nutrients that make peaches big and sweet. So ask yourself, when you bite into a fruit grown from human remains, are you consuming nature? Or are you consuming history? And if we won't even eat the fruit of this crime, why do we keep eating the lies? This isn't just about 1863. It's about what came after. Because the Devil's Punch Bowl wasn't the end. It was the blueprint. Jim Crow said, you're free, but you can't sit here. Redlining said, you're free, but you can't buy here. Mass incarceration said, you're free, but we'll lock you up anyway. The pattern is the same. Grant freedom, deny resources, let them suffer, blame them for it, erase the evidence. And in 2025, you're still doing it, just with different tools. Banning AP African American Studies, erasing slavery from textbooks calling. Reparations divisive, so ask yourself, are we still in the Devil's Punch Bowl? Just with Wi-Fi and better walls. Because when a system is designed to contain, not uplift, it doesn't matter if the chains are physical or economic. We cannot honor the dead by forgetting. Then we cannot achieve justice by pretending it was never stolen. So what must be done? Name the camps for what they were. Union death camps, not refugee camps, not contraband camps. Death camps. Excavate and identify the remains at the Devil's Punch Bowl and every site like it. Give them names, give them dignity. Teach this truth in every school, not as a footnote, as a central chapter of American history. Demand reparations, not just for slavery, but for the betrayal of freedom. Because as James Baldwin said, American history is longer, larger, more various, and more terrible than anything anyone has ever said about it. Asterisk, and until we face the terrible, we will never find the truth. This isn't just history, it's a crime scene, and the evidence is still in the soil. So don't look away, don't forget, and don't let them erase it again. Asterisk like this video, not for the algorithm, but as an act of remembrance. Subscribe, because this knowledge is resistance. Comment below, what should be done to honor the victims of the Devil's Punch Bowl? Share this with someone who thinks they know American history, because the truth isn't in the books, it's in the ground, and it's time we dug it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.